Hello and welcome to ClapperCast. I'm your host as always, Carson Timar, and today I'm so happy to be joined once again by longtime co-host Paul Price as we discuss the newest trend in horror that sees children's IPs that have finally hit the public domain be reimagined as horror tales. Specifically, we're going to be focusing in on Screamboat and the Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey films today, but we're also going to talk about a few others, discuss what we think of this recent trend in horror, and how we hope it evolves moving forward, considering it doesn't seem like it's slowing down at all. I am so excited to have Paul back on the podcast. If you know Paul, he loves horror films, big horror fan. He brought horror to the podcast with his initial Road to Halloween series back a few years ago, and today we are going to really discuss this genre and again discuss those films in depth. Before we get into the episode, I do want to give a quick spoiler warning. We do discuss spoilers for both Screamboat and the Blood and Honey films. These are films that are kind of hard to discuss without getting into spoilers. Granted, we tried not to reveal any giant twists, but for example, we will talk about certain character deaths in detail. So if you really want just a pure experience with any of these films, definitely I would recommend you check those out ahead of time. But without further ado, let's get to our episode today. Okay, Paul, thank you so much for joining. I'm so happy for you to be back on the podcast. First, before we get into today's topic, I'm just curious. You always normally have some fun story about your life. How have you been? It's been a while. What have you been up to? What's going on in the world of Paul Price?
I got laid off, and now I'm just poor. I got laid off like a couple days before the tariffs. And so I was looking at jobs after like a week, and I was like, wow, there are no jobs right now. And when people say that, they're lying. Until now. This was like bad. I'm used to when you go look at jobs and it's like, okay, there's like 40 jobs, 10 I would do, 15 that I would accept, maybe 20, nothing. There's like 5 and they're all like, not great. And also it just seems in general, everyone's paying less. I don't know when everyone started accepting less money, but don't do that. Always ask for more. Because I was looking at jobs that I was applying for like before, and they're gone down like 10-15 grand a job. It's stupid. But the good news is that the new job report said that people who graduated college don't get jobs anymore. So it's lower than it ever has been. So that's cool. How are you?
I'm well. As someone who's, going to be looking for jobs very soon, graduating college, I love to hear this feedback and I love to hear this world that we're living in. But no, things have been pretty well.
Yeah, it is funny because like everyone I know is like, oh yeah, I'm looking for work. Even if they're at a job, they want to go somewhere else because there's like no forward momentum. And I'm like, well, that's not great. I'm the only person I know who got a job recently, had to move to Washington, D.C. from LA. So it's like, although to be fair, I would move from LA. I'm not as connected to it as I've always been.
Where do you want to move?
Anywhere, because I'm wanting to do remote work, and that's really hard to say like, I need to stay in LA. It'd be like, what's a cool city that's not as expensive if I end up with remote work. If I have to go in office, I would prefer to stay in LA. But
right.
Yeah. So other than that, I had to give up my work laptop, so I was really sad about that. And then was just like, okay, screw it. I'm going to get myself an Air. And it's kind of interesting. I always thought that you needed a Pro if you were doing editing, but it's kind of changed in the past past half decade to where you don't really, which is cool. I'm glad that everyone can edit, because it used to be like, oh, if you ever want to be able to do anything, you have to get a Pro. And that was like, nearly $3,000 when you were all said and done.
Yeah.
But
I will have everyone at home know, because if you followed our podcast, we were supposed to do our White Lotus episode. We were supposed to do this big House of Yes and everything. I even advertised it. I was like, guys, no, it's all happening. We've switched our plans all around for it. Didn't happen. I wanted everyone to know it's because of this guy and him losing his job and getting his
it was really my fault. As I was getting the craziest thing. So the only thing I'll say is that when I got laid off, at the end of the Zoom call where I got laid off, my laptop like shut down. And I have never seen anything go that quick. Like I was just like, oh, they
And
were
they
sitting there with
hated
a
you.
button like. And the other funny thing about it was I knew I was getting laid off for a while, like the day. Um, and they didn't call me till basically like EOD. And so I just been sitting around waiting for that. And I had like gone through the 5 stages of grief or whatever. And then she gets on the phone and I'm already like, ah, da, 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 making jokes and stuff. And she bursts into tears. And I'm like, oh, it's not, you're fine. And I'm like, yes, she is fine. She has a job. um, but we move on. The new laptop is actually a lot better though. I also tried randomly the image playground that they have with Apple Intelligence. And I was like, oh, I'll see what it is. I don't really like AI image generation, but I thought it created your own emojis. Like
Yeah.
that's what I thought the pitch was, and I have yet to be able to find that. But I did find it. Take one of my photos and make the like worst image of me I've ever seen. Like it's here. Riveting stuff for the podcast, but I know other people watch it. But look at
It's on
this.
YouTube also, you know.
I know.
What a
Look
way
at
to
that.
promote.
Why would it be like like there's no world where like, and I'm not like a particularly like ugly guy, so I'm wondering why it would be set to make me look that ugly. Like no one's getting out of that alive.
Wow. I
I
was not
know
prepared.
that it was going to be that bad.
Yeah.
And that's like, it was like, do you want to use this as your profile photo? Yes. Yes, I do. I want
Wow.
everyone to think I'm seriously mentally unwell. Um, so yeah, I'm still trying to find it because like the emoji one you can actually put into your emojis on your phone, and then you
Right.
can like use it as an emoji, and that's cool. I could make like the schnauzers or something, and that doesn't feel like it's killing too many trees. But like the rest of it,
We did
I
lose a
don't.
forest for that one image though
Yeah,
of you,
I
but that's
don't
okay.
well, that's the other thing. It also made like 40 images, and I don't understand the point of that either. So it anyway, I will not be touching the image playground again for my own self-confidence.
No, valid, but I do need you to send that image
Yeah.
to me, and I need to make it like I just need that for various reasons actually.
Well, like
Pretty
when we
incredible.
were trying to get people to do characters of us for the podcast, we could have just used that.
Yeah.
These 3 eldritch horrors.
We'll have to get Lena,
Eldritch, not
we'll
eldritch.
have to get it going. Um on that AI note, let's move on because we have a lot to talk about today. Because today we're diving into the concept of childhood IPs being remade into horror movies. It's a big thing popping up over the last few years, and we're starting with a brand new one that just released on VOD, Screamboat. This is the newest in this Steamboat Willie adaptations. There's been multiple of these. This is one that some people we're pretty excited for. I will not say this is a genre I'm overly interested in, but it definitely is there. Paul, I'll turn it over to you first. What were your thoughts on Screamboat?
So I think it's hard to talk about Screamboat separate from even in their pitch to us when we were signing up for the. It's like this is the best of these, and that is true. I asked for this link, and then we decided on which ones to watch. I years ago watched Mean One. Don't remember it. Was very drunk. But then we were like, okay, let's watch the Blood and Honey ones, and we'll get into those later. But having watched those and then attempted to watch the Mousetrap, my expectations for these. Also, I like watching schlocky horror. That's like one of my favorite things. And I'm not particularly a big on the Terrifier, so that is my one note with this one specifically, is that it got a little too Terrifier-y. But outside of that, it's the only one where I was like, that's funny. Where like the cheapness worked for it. It didn't feel like they were, we'll get into the other ones, but I don't need lore in my, like, thick lore in my movie about, a mouse running around a fairy. I do think that the lore that was in this is probably the worst part outside of the animated part, which I thought was actually really fun. But I guess we didn't do like an overall, so we can talk about like specifics. But yeah, overall, less bad than I was expecting. Had more fun. Not sure about a lot of things though. Like I'm not like this is a great movie, but I'm also like I can see putting it on for what it's supposed to be. Put it on with friends when you're like high or drunk and be like, that was fun.
Which I think I agree with. I've not seen the Mean One. I've heard from a lot of people it's like pretty fun and somewhat clever. So I assume it's a very similar vein as this film
Yeah,
is.
the things I remember of it.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I agree. I mean, this is definitely a movie, right? In comparison to like The Mousetrap, like it says a lot that this is like it is a film. It has some funny moments. Pretty bold for them to advertise this as literally being like they were like this one's actually funny and this one's actually clever to the Disney lore. Like just saying this one's really highbrow, but it's not really quite highbrow. But like yes, all the Disney princesses being drunk has some funny moments. I think the mouse is fun. This is obviously a David Howard Thornton, so it's like a really decent performance. I'm not a big Terrifier fan. I've not seen 2 or 3. I know a lot of people are huge fans of those, but he gives a great physical performance. That comes out here fine. I thought the location here was pretty good on the Staten Island ferry. Like again, everything here is like pretty competent. It looks pretty decent. The effects are good. The kills, there are some fun kills for sure if you want blood and gore.
That's actually
compared
one
to
of
like
my
the
biggest
Mousetrap.
problems.
What? Go
We'll
for
get
it.
I was gonna say, I felt like the kills didn't really. I wanted more overall that the kills felt Disney-y,
Sure.
and these felt Terrifier-y.
Yeah.
Like even if you want to go like more, if you're going over animated, do Hanna-Barbera style, like uh, or like Roger Rabbit or something like that, where it just feels like a little funny.
Yeah.
A lot of this was like, oh, we should go gore, and I was like, you don't need gore right here. Like
Yeah.
high, most notably, the only time I couldn't watch was when the guy was getting his head cut off. I was like, this is too long. The sounds are freaking me out. I know, like, the only part that was funny was when he stopped, but like, it felt that literally is a joke from Terrifier,
Right.
Terrifier 2. And I wish we had been able to get Michael on this one. He was not watching all the movies, but he's a huge Terrifier 2 fan. And
Yep.
so he watched it with me, and I just sat there the whole time like, like the whole movie, which is why I'm more accepting of this movie, because it did have something fun to it. I think Terrifier is just so mean.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the kills I just wanted, especially we were just talking about the Disney princesses.
Yeah.
I thought each one was going to die in a way that was like indicative of their character.
Right.
And none of them were.
Ariel's was like slightly. It seems like it got cut. To be fair, but it
Ariel
was like
definitely
a
got cut, which I'm assuming it just looked bad. That's the only reason it could, like, there's no way there was plot or anything, because most of the deaths were like, and this character's just here. Yeah, I mean, we're going full spoiler on this movie, but also there's nothing to spoil. Like, I should just preface with that, because I just realized we're
I mean,
you just said like one of the characters dies, but it's also like
they all die,
everyone
right?
dies.
Like, yeah.
So big shock.
I mean, there are some like I don't know reveals, I guess, towards the end if you want to get into the lore. That I won't spoil. Yeah,
I just meant like the overall of like talking about deaths and things. Yeah, I just was like overall, I felt like a lot of the deaths could have been a lot more funny if that's the joke, if that's what they were going for. And I never, with these kind of movies, I never know what the tone is supposed to be. Am I supposed to be like grossed out? Am I supposed to laugh? Am I supposed to, there's a scene where a guy gets his dick chopped off, and it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie because much like the mouse, his dick keeps changing sizes um, every time they show it. And it's either like that big or like, a normal size. Um, and like, that was funny to me. But it's funny in like a this is bad production way, not in like a
Yeah.
the joke about this guy's dick is funny. Uh, so yeah,
Which
but
I think to a point, this film also, like, to its credit, knows what it's trying to be and is like purposely trying to be a little bit silly and campy in that way. I'll still say I agree with you absolutely, especially with the princesses. Feel like such a natural place for really funny deaths, and they just didn't do it. I still prefer this to the Mousetrap, where all of them were literally like every kill's off screen. I think if you come into this, you're expecting a certain level of Terrifier energy, and I think it is way more fun than Terrifier. That was my biggest issue, and I assume it's similar with Terrifier 2 and 3, is that it's just so unfun and just so bad of an
yeah,
experience, Terrifier, that it's just I have no interest in it. It just seems miserable. This is definitely more than that. I also will say I like the death of when he gets hung off the ferry and his face goes into the
oh yeah,
propeller. I don't
propeller,
know what it's called. Is it called a propeller? I don't know.
yeah.
I like that. I will say also the deaths I wish could have played around with even just the fairy setting a little bit more. Like, it feels like there's a lot more you could be doing. I agree.
Yeah,
That's probably its lackluster point. I also agree with you. The lore here, not that I want to get into it, because a lot of like the reveals in the third act is about the lore. They keep hyping up like, what is his motivation? Why does this mouse want to kill all of us? I thought it was pretty terrible. I think that was like the lowest for me of the movie. Just because also they spend so long building it up and then it doesn't really equate to anything.
I
Maybe
I
in
struggled
the
even
sequel.
with the like through line of it. Um, Mainly because not to spoil anything, but like they introduced that he's in love with this one girl character, and then that doesn't end up being true, and I'm like, well, what was that? What was like? There's a point, and I actually thought it was one of the funnier moments of the movie. He's the propeller guy. Actually, he's in the middle of killing him, and he looks over, and the final girl's there screaming, and he's like in love with her, and then that doesn't ever come up again, and doesn't matter. They try to make it matter. They like say some little thing, but it doesn't really match with the rest of the plot, and so that was like disappointing. Um, it also felt like it took her out of danger a little bit, which made me less, you know, not that I'm particularly like worried about these characters, but like I was like, okay, well, she's gonna survive. She's the next one. Which is overall one of my biggest problems with a lot of these movies, Terrifier 2 included, where like who the girl is that's surviving, and it's not a like legacy character to where you're like, fine, we saw her maybe almost die 7 times. She can definitely live this time. It's like when they start out and you're like, this is the hero, you're like, okay, I don't fucking care. Like, and I think they overdid her a lot. Um, I also am curious. Like a huge part is her saying she's going to go to with Massachusetts again, and like, is she going to be in Massachusetts in the sequel? Like
No, yeah, well, yes,
Boston.
it's very odd. I also will say, like, to your point about the ending and certain characters and certain things like the romance. Plus, there's also like a lot of characters here that are kind of hyped up to mean something and then don't really mean a lot. There's this random guy who we meet on the boat when the mother and son sees him and they're like freaked out by him, and then he just kind of is just like a guy. There's a lot here where it has the energy of having a lot of rewrites. It has the energy of like, here's our ideas, but then we end up switching them, but we already filmed this scene, or we like this death and this is how it works, so we're trying to redo it. But I don't think that's actually the case, because also it was pretty rushed. That's one theme with all these, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more with Blood and Honey, which we're going to get into in a minute. But like, as soon as these IPs drop into public domain, and that's something with the Mousetrap, literally the day Steamboat Willie went into being public domain, they dropped the trailer for that film the very same day. These films often just have a rush to get out because they want to capitalize on the concept of like how funny Winnie the Pooh is killing people, which does not lead to obviously good screenplays or necessarily good films. But I do think overall, this is one, like, if you're going to watch it, and it's exactly what you said at the opening here, I can't say this is horrible. It still is a film. It still is mildly fun.
Yeah.
It gets the job done if you want something like this.
And it almost felt like Goldilocks watching these 3.5. I did not finish The Mousetrap. Life's too short. But it was like the first one was the worst movie and felt completely, Blood and Honey 1. Blood and Honey 2 felt like, and we'll get into it, way too much plot. All of these are copying Terrifier 2, which I think A, is not that interesting because it's already been done. B, we just don't need it. Well, Blood and Honey was also copying Freddy, but and then this one, and then Mousetrap we'll just skip, but like this one felt like very much the this porridge is too hot, this porridge is too cold, this porridge is just right. Like, I got what they were doing here. I wish it was better. I wish it was stronger. But knowing that this is where it's starting and they're definitely doing a sequel, I'm like, if we can do the quality jump from Blood and Honey 1 to Blood and Honey 2 with this, I fully believe that it can be a like legitimate movie.
And I do think I have faith in that. Well, again, we'll talk about Blood and Honey in a second, but from everything I know about this director, it seems like he genuinely wants to make fun movies. It doesn't seem like he's just doing this to make a cheap buck and he doesn't really care about it. So if we're doing a sequel, ideally with more time spent in it, ideally with more money spent on it, I genuinely have faith that it will improve on this. I don't think this is one where I'm overly skeptical about these people.
And I do like that I don't feel like you can add much more lore into this, where they did that with Blood and Honey. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I think the mass death scene was probably one of the most disappointing for me, because if you're going to do a mass death, I don't know, I want a couple different things to happen, like a couple different groups, having them all wiped out the same way. And actually what annoyed me the most was one of the princesses randomly grabs, like, for no reason, gets killed as well. And I was like, no, like...
It was also just like a weak death. Have you seen Ghost Ship, I believe it's called?
Yes.
That has a great mass death on a boat, where like, if you are going to do a big mass death, at least have it be memorable and have it be really fun and over the top.
Or
this was pretty...
Yeah, because the biggest problem is you're expecting to see the corpses for this, and they don't show them.
Did you know you could be listening to this episode of ClapperCast early? Well, if you go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/ClapperCast podcast, there are 3 different tiers that you can choose from, each with their own means of support and each with their own means of rewards. You can get access to early episodes, bonus monthly episodes, bonus reviews. You can see our schedule early. Of course, thank you everyone who's already joined us on Patreon, and we hope to see you over there soon.
But this also goes into what I was saying about like the meanness too. In that specific one, those people felt sad, not funny. And there's a weirdness, like, one of my biggest problems with the movie X, going to a completely different thing, is that the characters are all a little too nice, and I don't have fun watching them die. Like, I don't enjoy those. That's what's so great about movies like Scream and, any of the classics from like the 80s, is they understood, like, hey, these people suck. And it doesn't have to be teenagers had sex, but it's like they suck as people. So when they die, you're like, oh no, I liked that character a bit, but like, eh. Versus in this one, it's like families, and like, there's this weird thing with a kid and his mom, and I was like, this just is not necessary. Never put a kid in your horror movie unless you're gonna chop them. Like, I don't need to see a child. And actually, Blood and Honey 2 does this as well. I do not need children in horror movies ever, ever. And I understand that this is like a thing where it's like parents or whatever, like, oh, I feel attached to it. But it's like, A, parents aren't watching this. B, it's just like, it's always so unnecessary. This one felt more egregious than Blood and Honey, though the other character in Blood and Honey was in it more.
Oh my gosh. Well, this one was somewhat like noticeably weird to include because every single scene they go somewhere that has like dead bodies or something that they don't want them to see. So continually, literally every scene they say, actually, you wait here alone while we go do this thing and then we'll come back for you. It just makes no sense why he's here at all.
Oh, yeah. And
bizarre.
The other thing that was really weird was exactly to your point. There's a spot where one of the princesses disappears. And they have a whole long conversation about whether or not they should go find her. And then don't. And it's not funny. It's not played for laughs. It just feels like they like abandoned this woman to die. And I was like, oh, okay. There is no drunk in the world. There's no amount of drunk in the world where like you watched your friend die and you're like, fine. And that was like something that really bugged me. If you want to do that, like play it up as hammy, but they didn't. They played it like she's drunk. And it's like, she watched her friend get electrocuted. And then later, actually immediately after, seeing a different dead body, she's like, "Wah!" But yeah, overall, like, I think that this was fun. If this was on like Peacock or Max or something, and someone was like, "Should I watch it?" I'd be like, "Yeah, it's a fun to put on with friends." But like, and it's also I'll probably watch the other Blood and Honeys just for the fun of it, but like this is the only one that I'd be like, oh, good, I'll watch that.
Good, because we will be watching the rest of them. I mean, I also don't think this is going to be part of a giant connected universe, so I think that's a point in its favor as far as following it. So
okay. The weirdest thing to me, side note, is the lead male is named Pete, which is definitely supposed to be a reference to like his main arch nemesis, but like in no way is he like Pete as a character. So it's just like there was like a bunch of like big burly dudes in this movie, and I was like, any of them could have been Pete if you wanted to do that. Why is it this like, little like soft boy? I also I just watched another Simple Favor, which started out great. I was writing people, I'm like, why does everyone think it's terrible? And then like right after I'd written everyone, it just goes, doo. Still fun, but like the third act is like so bad. I don't know what happened. And it's rough. But what I was gonna say is I was sitting there and I'm like, a lot of this movie is quotable. Like, you may not like the movie or whatever, but like there's like funny lines in here. That's what's missing from this. Like, I need more quips. Like, if you want to go funny, start doing your dialogue a little more like quippy, like a little, add some like, and I don't mean puns, I mean quips, and that's a very different thing. Where the dialogue builds to something funny, not just like reference. I also thought, going back to the princesses, because I assume we're about to go over to Blood and Honey. The one thing about the princesses is they did not really like look or act like them, and I understand they were like pushing their luck with parody law stuff, but nothing like the princesses. Specifically, like Jasmine and Belle were like hanging out doing like TikTok dances, and I was like, Belle? Jasmine? No. There's so many princesses you could use to do that. And it's not that one. Also, everyone was too old in that whole like group of girls. It's one of the weirdest things in these movies where like I would think that you could cast younger so much more easily than older, and yet every single time in these movies, everyone looks like 10 years too old for their character, which just seems so strange to me because like they're cheap on the fly and you're in terrible conditions. Get some kids who are fine with that, not like, adults who probably are a little bit miserable doing it. Oh, also, why was Tyler Posey in this movie?
There's a lot of people who had like small roles. I was like, why is the Impractical Jokers here? Like, what is happening?
I didn't even notice that, but I never watched that show. So like,
me neither. I just know it because of Comic-Con. Because they had, I didn't watch the show either. But
I don't know. You seem like,
oh yeah, you're right. That's my type of humor. That's everyone knows. Carson's goofs and gaps. Favorite one is Impractical Jokers. Me energy. That feels offensive. That's almost as bad as when you called me a gamer, to be honest. With that, let's move on, because this is, again, not the first film, and I figured instead of just talking about Screamboat, let's try to paint a bigger picture here and see how maybe some of these other films are, specifically Winnie-the-Pooh, Blood and Honey. This is originally a film just meant to capitalize. Let's, I guess, start with the first one. We start with the first, but then I think it's going to very quickly get into a conversation of the two films, because this did a very interesting thing where they started making money from these, and then they decided, hey, what if we create a giant connected shared universe, leading to like an Avengers team up between all the IPs?
Yes.
Go for it.
What's funnier, and I'm so glad this didn't get spoiled for me. I don't know how it didn't get spoiled. So, if you haven't watched these, I don't know if it's that big a deal for most people. I thought it was hilarious that the first movie is horrendous. It is one of the worst things I've ever seen. And then the second movie says, actually, that was a terrible, like, straight to video version of the events of the first movie.
Yeah, it's like stabbing the Scream
recast
franchise.
Everyone looks different, and a huge part of the first act will be consistently referencing how bad the first movie was.
Yes.
And I'm watching it with Michael, who would not watch the first one. He's like, do I need to know anything?
Oh.
And I'm like, I don't think so. And then like
well, this is why you texted me and you were like, I'm just going to do number 2. And I was like, no, please watch number 1. Like, you have to do both of them. It's actually kind of important.
So, we're watching it and I had to explain this. And then they start showing clips from the first movie. So I'm like, oh, that's the first movie. And then they show a clip that wasn't in the movie where Pooh confidently goes, it's Pooh time. And looking at Michael, thinking that was a line from the movie, I was hysterical. It's the funniest part of any of these movies, but it's so set up in like, like I don't know if it's intentional at all how funny it is. It's just like so many things happened at once that made it so great. But yeah, if we're gonna talk about the first one, when we talk about horror, there's always this like, oh, remember that genre of like hot girls, boobs out, dying instantly, graphically in rapey kind of ways. That is literally that movie. I was so surprised by how like sexually charged all the deaths were in a way that's not like even remotely fun. Like, it's not campy. It feels misogynistic. And it was very weird to me watching the first one. The other thing is, and you are too, don't do well with jump scares. That entire movie is like priming you for jump scares. So I was just sitting there like this the whole time, even though no jump scare was particularly good. But like the fact that I knew it. But going back to the boobs and stuff, there's one girl at the very beginning. It's like the first death or second death. And she's just sitting there and all of a sudden like Pooh grabs her shirt and bra come off. And like it would be funny if
Hell
it
yeah,
was
brother.
supposed to, yeah, right. It would be funny if it was supposed to be funny, but it's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be titillating, which makes it so gross. And also, like, that death is unimportant. He puts her through a wood chipper, but he doesn't. He bashes her head in and then puts her through a wood chipper. So you don't even get the wood chipper of it all. It's like, uh, and so much of that movie felt like that, where it was like, oh, here's a cool death, and it's like, oh no, we're just skipping over that, and all of the violence was just like, I'm not a like, I don't like Saw or those kind of movies, but slashery violence where it's like quick and gross, I'm fine with. All of this felt like it pushed into Saw, but like cheap and gross and also slasher, so it was like everything I hated all at once. Um, Specifically, there was a scene with a car where it's running over a girl's head, and it's so slow and it looks so bad, but also like, you know, this is a girl that like there's no reason to hate her. She, well, this girl sees a masked killer in a photo behind her, and then goes, "Oh well," and gets back in the pool. For that, she did deserve to die, but not that way.
Right.
And it wasn't funny. It wasn't like she did it funny. It was like sad and stupid. Like when she like got back in the pool, I was or the jacuzzi. I was like, "Girl,
No, to
um,
like a shocking degree, this movie is not trying to be funny. Like, there's
no,
no part of this that's like trying to play into the campiness. It's also like incredibly low budget, which no hate,
yeah,
like is so noticeable in this one.
yeah,
It's so weird to look at the frame and not be like, yeah, this is really stupid, and let's just make this really campy fun, and instead try to take this fully seriously. As you mentioned, go very gross into how it handles sex and nudity and women. Like it's very nasty.
yeah."
This is like bottom of
There's
the
an
barrel.
entire subplot where a girl is like sexually assaulted, and then like it doesn't matter. Like she's not the final girl, so I don't understand why that happened. It's just very strange, and I kind of appreciate that they're like, that's not the move. Like it's so ballsy to be like, that one's so bad that we'll tell you to skip it, and then like very clearly is like, do not watch that one. But if you do, we'll make jokes about it in the second one.
No, it's
Um,
I mean it's all very odd, right? That a creative team would get together and make a film like this first one, and then be like, actually, let's connect it to this universe, and actually, let's put in a lot of work to try and I don't think Winnie the Pooh 2, the sequel here, is that good, to be honest. I think it's like fine, but it's very odd and you rarely see this in film where it's like, oh, we're actually gonna put a lot of work into trying to make it good now. We're actually gonna like listen to the fans, poll the fans. We're gonna try to build this to where it's really meaningful, which they've also continued to do from this point on with the franchise. I don't think you got to see Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, whatever that was called.
no,
That takes a step up in quality. And the behind the scenes of like the Pinocchio outfit is insane. Like it looks really cool. They're investing a lot more money now. Obviously, they have more money into these, but it's just an odd switch in like just ideals of horror to go from making this first film authentically to being like, actually, let's go in and make this universe and try to make it really good. It doesn't compute in a lot of ways, but I'm very proud of them and happy for them that they're doing it.
yeah. Um, and to your point, it's kind of disappointing that they rushed the sequel. I understand why, but I'm disappointed they rushed the sequel because so much of it feels like plotting that they could have massaged out. So we can't talk about this one without doing spoilers. Sorry. So if you want to watch this movie, I did not know what this fucking plot was going to be. And I realized very quickly what this plot was going to be. And I'm so surprised that that's what they went with, because A, it is Five Nights at Freddy's. So, spoiler for this, also Christopher Robin's the main character in these, if you haven't watched these. So that's like very important. And he's like a 20-year-old boy. There's additionally something very funny about the Christopher Robin thing. Um, a huge part of the first movie, and in fact, also the second movie, is that Christopher Robin went to college and then has another life and doesn't live in town, so he could never go visit them. However, in the second one, he lives potentially with his parents. I don't know if you ever saw his bedroom in the town. Right next to 100 Acre Woods. So there is zero reason that he could have never visited his friends. Which does make like a huge part of the first movie like make no sense, but like doesn't get explained in the second one. Because like it was like a thing where it was like, oh, he didn't mean to, he just, but like if he was there, because he has a job, he's employed, there's things that are going on in his life, he clearly was like right there. So I don't understand what that was supposed to be. But this all kind of connects as well, because the big reveal is, much like, Freddy Fazbear, they're actually children that were experimented on by a mad scientist. And Winnie-the-Pooh is his brother.
As you do.
Which, the funniest thing was, Michael could not handle the child version. He was perfectly fine with the adult. He was like, yeah, creepy, whatever. He was like, that kid is so fucking creepy. I will say it doesn't really make sense why he's so much bigger than his brother, because like it wasn't like when they were teenagers they were the same height, and so all of that kind of stuff got really annoying. Owl being a vulture was really weird, but overall, like, I enjoyed the concepts of this. Michael said it felt like the cutscenes of Mortal Kombat, and I said it felt like a dark reboot of like Power Rangers more than any like Winnie the Pooh thing, especially with the owl who just looks exactly like a random Power Rangers villain. And like overall, I was fine with it. I didn't need, I didn't really need Tigger in there. I know he's getting his own spin-off movie, which is great because he just didn't need to be in this movie. I think that 2 is better than 3, especially since they never interact. And that was really frustrating. And I understand why they're saving it, but I just wish they would explain where these other characters are. Like, where is Kanga and Roo? Where is Rabbit? All these characters. All of it just felt very like loose, and that was annoying to me. Because if you're wanting to do the shared universe, then like we know the plot, so the Winnie the Pooh plot. So then give us these characters to an extent. I also, this had the same thing where I felt like some of the deaths were too mean. Everything with Tigger, way too mean. There's this thing, and you know what? Brought back the misogyny from the first one. I don't know why. Like, Michael even pointed out, he's like, why is he calling them all bitches and sluts this whole time? Which, also weird, they never explain why they talk again. They didn't talk in the first one. They talk in this. We know why, because their mouths move in this. But like, it just does not explain, like, oh, they talk. Because Pooh, the big point of the movie is like he finally speaks, and then in this it's like they're just yapping all the time. But yeah, every 5 seconds when Tigger's on screen, he's saying something really misogynistic.
I feel like that was a Freddy Krueger reference. And that's one thing I'll say is there's so much in both of these movies, but especially number 2, that are like very clearly trying to reference horror movies. There's a lot of Halloween Kills in this movie, which is such a weird film to try to reference. But it bothered me how much of this just felt like it was trying to be a parody or just call out other better horror movies. Granted, I think this is actually better than Halloween Kills. But like, I didn't get that aspect. I think it's funny. Keep to the Winnie the Pooh stuff. Keep to that comedy. I don't know why we have so much Freddy Krueger in this. Like, there's
Yeah.
multiple things that are directly Freddy Krueger.
I also had huge problems with we already spoiled it. I didn't like that Winnie the Pooh was the one that killed his parents. I don't know why. That really just like rubbed me the wrong way because it wasn't a plot point, and it seemed like that's something that you should explore if he's going to do that. I don't mind him kidnapping his own sister, Bunny, which they already showed Rabbit in the. I was so concerned that was going to be Rabbit. I was like, "Are you going to have it be like they kidnap her and turn her into Rabbit?" Like, oh my god! But they didn't because they announced that Rabbit exists. But overall, I just felt like there are so many of these like the meanness, and I don't mean to harp on that because I know some people don't care, but like I don't understand it for fun movies. Like, oh, there's a mom who really cares about her family, her son being accused of murder and all this stuff. Let's have her stabbed to death with these like, face in the uh dishwasher, stabbed with a bunch of knives, and then this dad protecting his daughter running downstairs. I'm like, is this fun? Like, I'm not feeling fun. I'm not enjoying myself. I just feel a little bad. And that's what's so weird is like that's when it goes from like fun shock value to like pushing the envelope shock value. Like, ooh, look. And I haven't seen the Peter Pan. I know it connects to this one because the psychiatrist is in it. But overall, like, I wanted more of these characters, and like, uh, I want like if you're gonna spend. Oh, also, first half is way too long, where nothing is happening, and I wish they had like spread out those deaths a little bit more. Um, Also, everyone's face kept getting fucked up. It felt like they were like, which sounds fun, but like the third time it happened, I was like, yeah, cool. Another one. Like, there's one girl, let me see. There's one girl who gets set on fire. There's a guy who gets shot in the face. There's another guy who gets acid on him. Is that it? Feels like there's another one. No, maybe.
I
Maybe
think
it's
that's
just
it.
those three. And I was like, this is just too much. Like, I don't need to see it again. And when I'm like bored by horrifying violence, I am sure that other people are. And those overall stories, like, I wish they had continued more and figured out more things with them. I also don't buy that anyone would believe that Christopher Robin did those kills. Like, that was so the whole second part of the whole second movie is that the kills in the first one were done by Christopher Robin as far as society understands. And it's like, obviously his movie seems insane. But if I watched that movie, I would think there were killers in a bear and a pig mask, and he connected them to his childhood. Easy. Done. That it is. They're like, this scrawny little 22-year-old murdered a bunch of women in horrific ways and then went back to town and is totally fine. No one buys that. Like, that's not a thing that, like, the town would believe. Um, I'm also curious, getting into what you were talking about, that they're doing this whole universe. Um, I don't know. I feel like if they're going a little too early into that, because I don't know how you go back to smaller ones after that. Like, it's almost the same thing as like the end game, in Avengers, which it's making fun of. How do you go back to just like, we're killing random people? It's like, especially I was looking at that list, there's a bunch of people who haven't had their own movies yet. So it's like, I don't know how you're going. I feel like they're going to go to a certain point where even with their high end budget, they're going to be out of money to do bigger and bigger, and it's going to
Yeah.
feel like, coasting when it didn't have to. They could have naturally done it. Um, but yeah, like I enjoyed I enjoyed this one a bit more. I did actually like the Christopher Robin actor in this, which is great because he is also the director
For
of
Peter
Peter
Pan,
Pan,
right?
which is crazy.
Yeah.
When I had read that, I thought he was the Christopher Robin in both of them, and I was like, that makes sense. But I can't believe he was in one movie and they're like, here, have your own movie. It's a great career path.
He's also directing the Alice in Wonderland one, which I mean I appreciate. I think the best film or horror franchises tends to be the ones that really keep it in house with people who share a vision. So, I mean, fingers crossed those are good. I'm just confused by the timeline of this all. So this year, 2025, we got Peter Pan. We're supposed to get in July 25th. We'll all be there. Bambi: The Reckoning. Um, keep your dates open for that. Then also Pinocchio's this year, and then in October we're supposed to get the Pooniverse, Monsters Assemble. Outside of that,
It
they have
said
like
it said
10 other
early
films.
2026, so I'm assuming that.
Oh, did they push it?
Yeah, yeah. They
Well,
didn't push it. They're currently shooting it, so I am assuming that it's like, okay, well,
okay, okay. He said the goal was to release in October, but it probably will be pushed. Regardless, still after that we have one, two, three. I'm not going to list them, but we have like 9 other projects at least in development from these people. I'm also a little bit concerned about because as you mentioned, you couldn't watch Peter Pan because it's not really like available. They have really bad releases both theatrically and VOD. I think these were on Peacock, I believe. So that was easy enough to watch. Um, I know Peter
I
Pan
couldn't
made a
even,
lot.
like, I was, just to be a completionist, wanted to just watch it, and I was like, I'll pay whatever. If it's 20
Right.
bucks, fuck it. No, not available. Like, not available. It's crazy. I was completely shocked.
And as we get more of these and the novelty, obviously every single entry, the novelty goes down a little bit. I am a little like, I don't know if these are going to be bringing in the same paychecks that they have previously. Granted, they're made for very little. So maybe it'll be okay. But I'm very confused. I guess, are you excited for this franchise? Like, is this something you were like, oh, I'm going to keep up with? Or is this something where you're just going to kind of let it sit and do its thing?
I would do it exactly how I did, which was just watch it on Peacock. Like, here's the thing about these kind of movies. I would not have fun in a theater setting. I know that's what it's for, but I can just imagine the, like, drunk imbeciles in there. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with that. But, like, I do want to see Bambi. Okay, so Bambi is the one that I, like, kind of am excited about because I am really hoping that they stick to Bambi, in that, like, if it's Bambi fucking up a bunch of hunters, I'll have a good time. Like, as someone who's never murdered anything, um, I
Same.
I feel that, hunting, you should get killed by a giant mutant uh, deer,
I don't
and
disagree.
that's like, that to me is like a fun one. I just I guess I'm a little frustrated with going back to even the second one. I'm just a little frustrated that, like, they didn't build out the set as much, and, like, the scene. Like, everything was fun, but it was very what you said. It was very like Halloween, where it's just like people in houses, they're killed. People in the forest, they're killed. A club that you never get a feel of. Oh, which was what I was going to say earlier, referencing back to Screamboat. Um, that was the only part of the movie where I was like, dear Lord. Um, so, like, Christopher Robin runs in and there's all these, like, dead corpses, but they are literally just people who are, like, currently laying down. There was nothing about it that felt like dead. There was no blood. There was just like, guys, come on. Like, buy a bucket of blood and just drench everyone. Like, it's fine, but like just like he's just people just laying there. And I think there was like one guy I saw that was like kind of moving, and I'm like, oh, okay, now we're back in a low budget world. Um, but yeah, like if they come up with like more, if they can learn from like Screamboat and do like crazier kind of storylines, then yeah, totally for it. I also think it's interesting that Bambi is the first one they're doing kind of what I'm surprised they're not doing more of, which is like there are like Disney was using public domain. So you can just use those already. Like they could literally do Aladdin, they could do Hercules, they can do anything they want. So like I even saw a list and they were like, we're gonna do Powerpuff Girls, Teenage. I'm like, don't do parodies. If you want to do it, all of the Disney stuff is there because they stole it from, it's that's an interesting concept. I also thought it was a little weird, and I'm sure he's going to come back as like a monster of some kind, but I thought it was very weird that they introduced like the guy who created us, and I shot him. I was like, okay. I don't care if he comes back as a creature. I'm like, what was the point of this? I also thought it was crazy that like a semi-famous British actor was just like chilling doing that. Terrible role as a janitor to give this long ass monologue. um, but yeah, I think these are fine. In answer to your question, sorry, I went along. I would not watch these in theater. I would probably watch them, but exactly the same way as MCU. I think if I started missing them and they mattered, I don't know if I'm going to watch them. And keep them short. Keep this one, even this one felt too long. Um, Screamboat felt too long. I don't make them 80 minutes. I don't care. No one cares. No one's going to be like, oh, it's only 75 minutes. Like, if you want
Yeah,
to do the Pooniverse one longer, sure. But, like, don't make it 3 hours.
no, I mean, you can still be a real movie and be really fun and actually be way more fun if you're just shorter. I think that's something with like a lot of films right now. I'm just so confused about. I also I'm excited for Pinocchio again, not just the effects, but Robert England is going to be the cricket. I want to say, yeah. So I don't know, Mr. Freddy Krueger himself. Um, I hope these, and this is going to sound like a weird comparison. I'm nervous about Megan 2.0 this summer because I think the trailer at least appears like they're really missing the mark on what people want from campy horror. I hope this sticks that landing a little bit better than I expect Megan 2.0 to, and maybe Megan 2.0 will surprise me. I don't know.
I mean, I
I feel
didn't
like
like Megan
campy.
1.0, so.
Well, yeah, it was bad, but like that's the point. Though, is like, oh my god, then everyone was like, oh, this is so fun and campy. So ideally, then you're like, oh, we're gonna make it fun and campy, and it looks very straight energy. Again, maybe I'll be surprised. I think it looks horrible. But I feel like overall, maybe getting into an overall discussion of this genre, um, even with the okay ones, even with like the good ones, I feel like we're still leaving so much on the table as far as how can we make these over the top, how can we make these fun. There isn't one that I would point out as like you have to see this because it's just so over the top, exciting and fun. Granted, I know some of the iconography you specifically cannot get into because Disney owns the specific copyrights for those things, but it still feels like there's a lot more one could do with this concept, and I hope as these continue to happen, and it seems like there's no ending in sight, we can really get kind of something that is worthwhile. That's especially worthwhile, because even like again, Screamboat, I would say is probably the best we have right now. Still, there's a lot more you can do, and I guess I just am confused why a filmmaker who's making something like Screamboat wouldn't be going more over the top with certain things. I don't get the logic there, but
Yeah,
valid,
well,
I
and
guess.
actually, what you just said about Screamboat, um, I don't think that any of these movies are like significantly better as movies because they're using the IP. Screamboat, I was actually sitting there, I was like, this is having a little, like, especially, the New York rat situation. I was like, that alone, you can just do what if a little evil rat was running around killing people. That's fine. Like, that's funny. Do it. I don't understand why it has to be like, uh
I think a good shout actually is I hope we go more into like 100 of Beaver's side
yeah.
of things. I think that's a great example of a film that even, and that's not using IP, that's just using the concept of beavers, similar to what you mentioned. But they go so perfectly over the top with that, and they're so creative, and it's so funny. That's what I want out of these.
Well, and actually, to your point, I also think that, like, this immediate "we'll do horror" is so weird when, like, you can make Steamboat Willie shows. Anyone can make a children's Steamboat Willie show now. You can just do that. You can just make Winnie the Pooh. And I actually saw one company is doing their version of Winnie the Pooh, and he's like in a blue shirt or something like that. But, like, you can do that. That's fine. Cool. That's what this is for. It's not just, ooh, we can make a horror movie. You can do that with the mean one. Like, they already did that. They just couldn't use the word the Grinch. And they also, because they're still a little scared of Disney, didn't really call him Steamboat Willie all the time. It's like, you know, uh, they use Christopher Robin, but I don't think they mention, like, Winnie the Pooh a ton in this. It's like, it's just weird because it, like, feels like, oh, we can do the IP. We're a little scared. It's like, okay, well then don't do it. I think that's overall. It still feels like parodies in a world where they're not. You can use them. Um, and I think that they need to figure this out because we are about to hit that point where the IP law is going to get kind of crazy. Like, I think it's a little ways out, but we have Batman and Superman and, some of the Marvel characters and James Bond and all this stuff is going to come out. And if all we're doing is like Batman, but no, it's horror, it's like, okay, like, if you want to do something cool, use the property in a new way. Like, do it. Make your own, fight against Disney. Don't just do these, like, low budget. And not to these guys. I just mean in general. I would love to see, like, I'm so surprised that nobody announced a Steamboat Willie show. Where is it? Why not? You literally can do it. And, like, it doesn't, it feels a little bit like at Disney, but, like, not really. It's a property that's available. I don't understand how that works. I have yet to understand how you can have Steamboat Willie available, but not Mickey Mouse, even though it's Mickey Mouse in Steamboat Willie. But yeah, and we didn't really talk about it, but the Mousetrap was interesting because that one really felt like the whole time. It had the same energy as, for what I watched of it, it had the same energy of Escape from Tomorrowland or whatever.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, so
I watched the Jenny Nicholson though video, so I'm aware of it.
so that's all I've watched of it too. But a huge part of it, I'd watched a little bit of it before her video, but, like, same amount as this one. A huge part of it was Disney's gonna sue us, and that's what Mousetrap felt like too. Disney's gonna sue, and then they didn't.
The opening crawl was crazy.
Oh, like, and it kept going. And that was the kind of thing that's like, you're just wanting a cease and desist. You know what? Actually, the same thing is really interesting to me with a film you like, I think is garbage, People's Joker. Same thing. Where it's like, why is so much of this feel like you're trying, like, when all of that was going on and she got sued and all that stuff, it felt like that was part of the marketing, and I don't understand that. Like, on your own, if you're if you're doing a project on your own merits And then your whole project is trying to get sued by the people. You're both acknowledging, like, I'm taking your property and I kind of want to get in trouble for it. So, like, is there art to it anymore? Or is it just feels like marketing to me? And like that one's a little less because I know they did want to do stuff and all that. But like when they played up the aspects of like WB got upset, it's like, yeah, you were using my property and IP law exists. I don't know. You don't want someone to rework your movie. It's so weird to me when that's like the play because it feels, you know what it feels like? It feels like the same as what the AI guys are doing right now, where they're like, we can own every book and it's fine. Um, and I have one of my friends who's kind of into AI, and we were talking about that, and um, and he was like, I don't think IP should exist, and I'm like, but how can you make any money? And he's like, well, I think that money, and I'm like, another fucking tech guy going, other people shouldn't make money, and I love this guy, but it was just one of those things where I knew what it was. And I think the thing is, like, there's a thought that, oh, if you make something, other people should be able to use it, which is great if we all had, $300,000 a year UBIs, but we don't. So, like, what are we supposed to do here? Starve? Um, so anyway, it's interesting because that's a big thing for me is just like the whole IP world. So to see it post IP and it still has the vibe of it still being under IP is interesting to me. It's also interesting that Disney kind of shot themselves in the foot by using things that were older. So now the IP is going to wrap before their projects. Um, and they had done this originally with, like I said, the fairy tales and stuff. But now it's like, now that they're in that world, it's going to be very interesting to see how we finish out with all of this. Because if it wears off as a novelty, what is there? And that's to your point. So that's my big curiosity right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely curious how it all shakes out. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily overly hopeful about it all, but it's definitely.
I also I understand why the guys are doing it, but I also wish, like, we're doing these, but here's an original. We now have I don't want
Right.
them to drive their idea into the ground to where they don't get a chance to do something else.
Yeah.
I think like 2 or 3 was like a good idea to, like, hey, we can do this, and then let's show you our real ideas. Um, because I do think that some people move off it too quickly. Example, the host guys. I don't understand why we never got a host 2. Like, where is that? Even with their like missteps after, it's like it's still like I would still watch host. I would still watch host too.
Right.
Host has some of the best jump scares ever.
Right.
uh, okay, if that's what you can do, just do that again. And the thing is, you could easily set it up with, like, work from home, or a podcast or anything. Um, but is I think that this is like, I'm kind of concerned because I do think like their creature effects and everything are pretty great. Their ideas, in terms of, it's really just the creature effects that I think are very impressive in that movie. Um, like
And Winnie the Pooh or what?
in Winnie-the-Pooh and
Yeah.
in Screamboat. Like, the creature
Yeah.
designs is like incredible in all of those.
Yes.
Um, like, I legitimately think that, that's really great, especially when horror in the mainstream has gotten so VisFX or mental horror. Like,
Yeah.
bring back some creepy creatures. I didn't watch, no one did, but I didn't watch the Wolfman, the new Wolfman. But
Check out our full episode.
I know that the look of that werewolf was not great, and it's like, but that's the thing. Okay, let's get back to doing some great creature design. Um, in general. Like, and that's the one
Yeah.
thing I hope that the studios are taking from this, and not we need to go darker. Because I think that that is a mistake, but I do think that, like, you know, Art the Clown is a iconic character, even if I don't think the movies are that great.
Right.
And I can't, you know, kind of Megan a little bit, but like I can't think of anything else recently that's like it's a great character. That's a great horror figure since Pennywise, who already existed.
Yeah. I would struggle to name one. I think overall, luckily, the industry, at least from my opinion, seems to be starting to go back to a little bit more of a practical hand in things. Even just like production design, like Andor is using purely production design. So like it's not just using the volumes. Like I feel like we're slowly making our way towards that. Even with the Universal monsters, like the animatronics are from their Epic Universe park got like glowing reviews. I don't know, I feel like I hope like we're even in
Wait, what
certain areas like
Universal
theme
monsters?
parks. In their Epic Universe, they have like a sick Wolfman animatronic and Frankenstein animatronic.
Oh,
Um,
got you. Yeah,
which is a
first hit
change though, because
screens.
all the theme parks were using screen technology, and that was like obviously the big thing. So I hope in certain tiny little pieces we're starting to see a return to like these practicalness. I hope that plays out with characters on screen also. We will see. I mean, obviously, who knows? But I even like Thunderbolts have made a huge deal out of the fact that they shot in real locations, which you're so off the beaten path if you can make a whole like commercial about, no guys, we actually shot on set this time. I don't know what you've done wrong for years and years there. I don't know. That's my hope, at least. I wouldn't say I'm confident in it, but I am
Yeah,
hopeful because it
no, and
is noticeable.
I, I think going off of what you just said, I think that's one of the biggest problems is that they've, you know, and exactly what we were just talking about with AI or IP, you can do a little bit and people won't notice. The more you do, the second it goes too obvious, you can't even go back to a little bit anymore because everyone already notices it. It's the whole frog in the boiling water. And I think that that's one of the big things that they just really are screwing up. They screwed up with the Visifax, and does feel like they're screwing up in some other ways. So it'll be interesting. I feel like right now it just feels like a lot of movies are like slapdash. I haven't seen a movie recently where I'm like, that script was like fantastic. Even movies that have existed for like 20 years or whatever. But
Yeah.
I will watch Screamboat 2. I will not watch The Mousetrap 2. Cannot believe
Is
that's
that
happening.
happening?
Yes.
I didn't know that. That's
Um,
brutal.
and I will watch. I will watch the Winnie the Pooh movies, but like I won't do the theaters. I do wish it was like day and date. Honestly, like, do your little
Yeah.
quick and then right after, maybe like a weekend, and then I understand why they don't, but I would rather pay more money and watch it at home than, like, I could convince Michael to come
Yeah.
over and we could like watch a movie.
Yet again, another model, another thing that I think very similar to your point, they went way too hard and then everyone now they're backing out completely. Like the first Five Nights at Freddy's made a shit ton of money in the theater and it was day and date on Peacock. So like I don't know, I think there was more room there to explore than
Yeah,
maybe they did, and then it went too deep too quickly.
yeah.
But I certainly would prefer if every horror movie was just released on the TV so I can mute it every time there's a jump scare. But that's just me. I had to go see
I
Halloween Ends in the theater. I'm sad,
I'm
but
trying to think. Okay, so I didn't look during the eye. I didn't look when the mom was getting stabbed. Or the not eye, the car run over. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I didn't watch. Not really. Everything else, I was like, oh, this is fine.
I don't think
Uh,
much of these that we talked about today are very intense horror. Like
oh,
there's some moments in Screamboat, but really there's
yeah.
nothing.
The first, also weird thing. that seems to happen in all of these movies, and I don't understand it logically, is it seems like the deaths get like this. Like they start out really intense and gross, and then by the end, it's like nothing's happening. It's just stabbing. Because like there's these three girls that are killed in the opening of the Pooh movie, and all three of them are insane. And then like by the end, it was just like, and then this girl stabbed, and then this girl stabbed. Like, okay, where's the
Yeah, it
one
was the
that's
same.
gonna get bear trap to the face?
It was the same in Screamboat. It was very like started strong, and then when Cinderella gets just taken out by a harpoon stab, I was like, oh, that's kind of
Yeah, which
shows
doesn't even.
more.
I thought when she drops her glass slipper, and I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be like a nope, nothing.
Well, I think that's going to do it for our discussion on these films.
Yeah.
Hopefully the start, I would say, of a new returning series on this podcast. I can't wait to do Mousetrap 2, Screamboat 2, Bambi in July. Certainly there's no other films coming out in July that we would want to talk about, so that's perfect for us. It's a pretty interesting genre, and I'm happy we're able to really get into it today. Thank you so much for listening and watching at home. Paul, where can we find you if we want to hear your words more? And I don't know if we have an answer for
At
this really.
Price Like Tag on Twitter and Instagram. My letterbox is now hidden.
Yeah. Can't find it, everyone. And I try to find it, and then it's such a struggle now because I look, there's like 4 or 5 people I'll look at when I watch a movie, like what are their reactions? And there are so many times now where I'm like, oh my god, Paul didn't watch this movie at all, and he did, but it's hard to find now. Easy to look past. You can find me on Blue Sky and Letterboxd, just Carson Timar. Thank you so much for listening today, joining us for another horror edition. Paul, I feel like you are really like the horror person for this podcast. We did the Road to Halloween series with you, and just I feel like you've brought a lot of this on, so I'm happy to have you back, and we hope to see you again soon. And I think we will see you again next month for Wes Anderson, which is kind of horror, depending on who you ask. I think you and Mike will be there, so we will see how that goes. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.